Before this episode begins, I'd like to say that I will be heading to DinoCon UK on the 25th and 26th of July in Birmingham. So if you see me wandering around in my podcast t-shirt, come and say hello. I have bookmarks and pin badges to give away as well. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'll see you there. Like this program doesn't need to succeed in what it does. It doesn't need to be as good as it is, and yet it is.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to a very festive edition of The Pirates Don't Eat the Tourists. It's our Christmas special for 2025, and what a year it has been for Jurassic fans. We've had Rebirth, the final season of Chaos Theory, and a brand new Jurassic World Evolution game. To help me unwrap everything we've had this year and to look ahead to what is to come in 2026, I'm joined by two returning favourites of the show, Tom Jurassic and Conor O'Keefe. Hello to both of you, and thank you so much for joining me.
Hello, I made it eventually. I am really sorry that there is this massive glisten coming off of what is one of the Jurassic Park trading cards as well. I have no idea what is going on with that because there is
magic
no
rare card
pointing towards it, but it is just glistening.
It's the Christmas spirit of Jurassic is always with us.
The spirit of Christmas future is manifesting in my Jurassic Park card itself.
Thanks so much for having us on, Roland.
No, it's great. I just wanted to put this episode together and to really kind of kick back and look back at what 2025 it's been a mad year. We kind of sort of were expecting a film, and then suddenly that happened, and then we've had Chaos Theory, all so much stuff, and potential for next year as well. If I come to you, Tom, first, mate, what stands out for you as kind of out of all of that? What's the one bit of Jurassic content that you've really loved?
Oh, interesting. I knew exactly what my answer was going to be until you said the words really loved. I think probably Jurassic World Evolution 3. I think the new tools that have been added to the game really give fans so much more control than they've ever had before. And I'm sure we'll dive into it a little bit more, but stuff like the community workshop has really just added so much more depth to that game than I think any game in the Evolution series has ever seen before.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I still haven't. I'm consoleless. I am somebody who has got a Xbox 360 under my bed in my parents' old home. Operation Genesis was my last Jurassic game. Or actually, no, Jurassic Park, the game, on my iPad, first gen iPad. But yeah, no, we can dig into that a bit later. Conor, what about you?
Yeah, so I love Jurassic World Evolution as a series. I was a massive fan, especially of the first one with the Return to Jurassic Park DLC. Evolution 3, I've not played it that much. I've just not had as much time as I'd like to. And also, it is actually kind of overwhelming, how big it is as a package this time around. The new workshop and all of the modular building, the new terrain, because I'm a perfectionist when it comes to creating these parks and stuff, and I'm really detail oriented, and I'm scared of how much time I'm going to sink into this game when I allow myself. So I haven't jumped into that as much as Tom. So for me, I guess the highlight of the year was probably Rebirth, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about the film itself, but there was a nice amount of kind of hype around the launch month, I'd say. It was a much truncated release schedule, obviously, but it was really cool having all of those sorts of returning elements like David Koepp announced and stuff like that, and the Return to the Islands, and it was a great film to speculate about because of the idea that it was going to dive into aspects of the franchise's past. And so it, as always, like Brad says in the Jurassic Park podcast, it's the before is really fun, before a movie comes out. I'm sure we'll talk about the movie itself, but I did enjoy that whole period, and I saw it 4 times in the cinema and had a blast watching it in the cinema as well.
Nice. Yeah, well, if we start with probably the biggest one is Rebirth. This is a brand new film in the series. So how many times have you watched it more recently? Have you gone back and watched it again?
So I haven't seen it on like home video or anything like that. Is that even a term anymore? Home video? Streaming?
Yeah, I don't know.
I watched it I watched it in like 2D 3 times, and I watched it in 4DX. Honestly, like, I feel like that was the best way of watching the film, because it is truly a roller coaster ride when you watch it like that. So that was really, really fun. But yeah, I've not caught up with it again. I'm looking forward to, though, at some point. But I need to look for like an excuse. Like, I want to show it to someone for the first time, or maybe watch it as part of a whole series kind of thing. But yeah, Tom, how about you?
I saw it once in the cinema, and then I think I've seen it twice on home release. Kind of once where I watched it, kind of gave it my full attention, and then the other time I just sort of put it on in the background. So I think I'm at 3 in total.
Nice. I saw it, I think, 3 times in the cinema. I've watched it. So I watched it with my parents, and to get kind of their reaction, they probably remember the last film, but only that it had like Sam Neill and that sort of stuff in it. Yeah. And I think they enjoyed it a lot more as one that they could just sit down and watch, just not need to know anything or think about what was going on, really. And I've watched it recently with the commentaries. So I've listened to both of the commentaries, which are really, to get a commentary on a Jurassic is really rare, but to get 2, and Gareth Edwards talking to 2 sets of different people is really interesting to dig into the sort of the making of. It just sounds utterly bonkers. And they recorded both of them back to back before the film had even been released. So the stuff that they're talking about is just like, I don't even know what people are going to make of this when it comes out. Has either of your opinions changed of it at all in rewatches, or kind of how you thought about it at the time and how you think about it now? No, Tom's shaking his head.
Tom's shaking his head, yeah.
Yeah. I'm still pretty apathetic, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there one thing that what's the big thing that for you that maybe has made it a disappointing experience?
I think it's how disconnected it is. And I think it kind of like when you watch it. So I think when you watch it, you're kind of like, okay, we're on another island. Okay, it's InGen. But it's kind of like retro InGen again. What's going on here? And then none of it's really explained. And then kind of, I guess more so hearing some of the decision making afterwards and hearing like, it was InGen just because people thought it had to be InGen rather than there being a compelling reason for it. That kind of stuff has just soured my opinion on it. I'm the kind of person who I like when, if it's meant to be a film that is in the continuity of other films, I like it to respect what's come beforehand. Obviously, if you're a franchise like Terminator, for example, that's a bit of a nightmare. But I think with Jurassic, up until this point, it was fairly easy to do that. And I always say, I feel like Jurassic World did a really good job of that, because it didn't get everything perfect, but it kind of had its callbacks to the original. And then
the inclusion of like Woo and stuff was really good in Jurassic World.
It felt really natural. Whereas I feel like here, I think I can sum it up by, I saw the storyboards where it was, St. Hubert was the Biosyn facility. Yeah. I was just like, man, that would have been so much more interesting than what we got.
Yeah. I think those are all, like, I definitely resonate with all of those points. Like, it definitely feels that in them stripping back a lot of the kind of the world building, it's kind of negatively affected the series as a whole in terms of where's it go next, how does it connect to one another. The way it kind of throws out the baby with the bathwater with the ending of Dominion is still like a really tricky point. I feel like I get enjoyment out of the film, and it's a shame that it has to be this way, but like kind of watching it in a silo as this is a Jurassic Park sequel that is, it's just got the vibe and the atmosphere of a Jurassic Park film, and for me, it really works on that level. It's like a Jurassic Park 3 cell, like kind of romp. But yeah, I still really enjoy it as a film because of I like the production design. I think is amazing. The dinosaurs overall, like the Rex and some of the other kind of new. Yeah,
I love all the design of the creatures and it, and the way when you think that they had 6 weeks or something to design those and get the toys. That's why there isn't a Mutadon toy. It's because essentially the design was being made in post-production. So they just didn't have anything to give over to the licensors or to make the toys of them. But yeah, I think he'd mentioned that he had about 60 concept artists on a Zoom call to try and work out and hash out all of these designs. And the D-Rex came really quickly, and it was just like that was it. But all the others were sort of, up in the air, and Kep had given a script that was not really touched very much from production at all to what actually came to the final film. So they had just no time. They had.
And I think this gets to the crux of my issue, really, Roland, which is there was no rush. Like, conceivably, Universal had Wicked on the cards. They had How to Train Your Dragon. There was no real need to rush into an immediate sequel for this franchise, but they did. And I feel like it's done a lot of harm to everything around it by them rushing into it and taking it in a certain direction. And I just think they it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why they did that, because if they'd taken that time to actually maybe do a few more revisions of the script to really lock in on some of the designs, we might have got an even better film. And that's the thing I think is, like, actually, when there was that big gap between Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World, I think when Jurassic World eventually came back, they really knew that they had to nail it. And you see that in a lot of the concept design. I think it was from the Jaffa script, where there was like the gyrosphere on the monorail rail with like a helicopter flying alongside it, chasing one of the dinosaurs and that kind of stuff. They knew that they had to do something, and they really spent a lot of time developing those concepts. Whereas here it kind of feels like, and I hate to say it, but it really feels to me like we're going in the direction the Fast and the Furious franchise went, which is they were so focused on hitting those box office numbers that they didn't think, what is the wider story here?
And I think that's
that franchise is now.
I think that's kind of why Jurassic ended up where it was because I think they were meant to have a Fast and Furious film out in the summer, and they didn't. And they thought, right, okay, next summer's looking a little empty, so we need to have a film that will make us money. So that's how it sort of happened. But unbeknownst to seemingly everybody,
that almost brings more.
It makes more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, and they, but kind of separate to that, they had Spielberg and kept working together, kind of almost very secretively, to just cook up a story and then just deliver it, almost to try and, I don't know, obviously I wasn't in the room, but it feels like they were trying to like deliver a film as complete as they could, so they could make that film so there wouldn't be the messing about from the studio heads of that this is the film we're going to make. I've got kept back involved, so everybody can kind of calm down and go, here is the film, this is what we're doing. But there's also been a shift at the top of, I think, Universal as well, and they were very unhappy with the last Fast and Furious film, and also the last, Jurassic World, Dominion. Even though it took a lot of money, they weren't happy with the way that it was kind of going, and she was just like, we need to be really careful of these films.
So this is the thing I find so ironic, is the fact that somebody's been like, we need to be really careful, and then we got Rebirth. I enjoyed it because I wasn't the biggest fan of Dominion when it came out. I felt very flat at the end of that, compared to all the joy that I've had from the Chaos Theory and Camp Cretaceous. I really love that kind of side of it all. But I feel like Colin Trevorrow was kind of left to do what he wanted and didn't
take notes particularly kindly, and I think Spielberg's the kind of person who will give over all the information and give notes, and it's up to you then whether you decide to take any of those on board.
Yeah.
And I think Gareth had lots of calls with Spielberg and all of that, and he did absolutely everything that Spielberg told him to do. I think that was the difference for me. I could feel that Gareth, and I think it is all down to Gareth and the team that he assembled, that he wanted to come in February, I think he did, and then to be shooting by March time, finish shooting September, wrap the film, Christmas it's done. And they didn't test screen it to anybody apart from closed test screening to family and friends.
Kind of insane, isn't it?
It's crazy, yeah.
The big thing for me is kind of I think it is just like, and I try not to get too stuck up on it, but I think where I spent a lot of time writing Tales from a Jurassic World, I was in that headspace of, dinosaurs in the wild, what kind of storytelling potential is there? And I just get really frustrated, I think, with the fact that they've kind of got this golden goose where you can tell any number of stories in that sort of environment, and there's lots of different ways that you could... I feel like in Universal's mind, they probably saw that and were like, well, each story can only be about one dinosaur, so there's no way we can make a massive toy line and merchandise line around that. But I think there's ways to do those kinds of stories that bring in multiple animals, and there's ways to connect like different threads and things. So I just feel like that whole closing off of that portion of the world was completely unnecessary. Like, I think you could look at Rebirth in isolation as a mission for those specific dinosaurs because of when they were created and what that means about their biology and their application to medical science, and keep that completely separate from the other animals that are still in the world without saying they're all going extinct. And that's where I kind of feel like Universal's now backed themselves into a creative corner a little bit, because I don't quite see where we go next that isn't Isle St. Hubert again.
I think a big part of this is I think this carries over from the Jurassic World films, and I think that helped kind of establish where we are now. It is the kind of superheroification almost of like big franchises and blockbusters, is that every installment is there's probably a drive from the higher ups being like, it needs to be bigger, more cast, more dinosaurs, more action every single time. And what you're proposing there, Tom, is that kind of, and this is, I think, a lot of where a lot of fans stand, of us kind of really engaged fans. We want smaller scale stories that harken back to those original films, where there's higher stakes, but not as much bombast and action and stuff. But it's just the way that the modern blockbuster is kind of pitched with all the sequels, is that every time it needs to amp up. And now we're in this place where Jurassic has become one of those superhero style franchises, which but there are pros and cons. Obviously, pros mean that we get a lot more investment into the series for everything else, but then the cons, unfortunately, it does come with the storytelling and the world building, that stuff gets stripped back the more you go into this world. And I think Dominion was really a culmination of the superhero movie thinking. And I know Colin had just come off of Star Wars, so he probably wanted to make this big epic sprawling film. And I guess in comparison, Rebirth is smaller scale, but in terms of the action and the set pieces and the dinosaurs, everything is bigger and more bombastic. And so we're kind of, my worry for the future is that we're stuck in this loop now where things just get bigger and bigger. And with a series like Jurassic, it was never about that huge action. But we're no longer in the Jurassic Park series. We're now in the Jurassic World series, and there might need to be a kind of reckoning in that they have now become almost disconnected going forward.
I think I also, just listening to the commentary, like Gareth Edwards talks about the amount of so you shoot a scene and maybe 20% of that is kept. So and all the way through, he's saying, for young filmmakers out there, never shoot any backup or safety net if you're doing a long take, because then they can't cut to anything. But he was doing the editing, so but it just means that he tries to shoot as long as he can because he tries to do everything in a single take, because then he gets as much. He talks about the scene where Loomis falls and lands in the water and everything like that. That was all done on one take. And he said I really wish this just stayed on one take. And then, but people want to cut to the close up of the person, and he's just all filmmakers don't do that. Stick with your gut. Just have them coming down all in one shot, because it just lets everything breathe a bit easier. So it's interesting listening to the amount that was cut. But he said the first edit they did of it was under 2 hours long. And the studio went, actually, you need to let this breathe a bit. Actually, they were like, okay, they thought that we could put more action in, extend those scenes. But actually, they said, cut some of the action scenes, you make them smaller, and actually elongate the stuff of people just chatting. So the stuff with...
I'm so grateful for that.
So the Zora stuff with... Yeah, and he was so surprised. The editor and him were just like, "Oh, they're going to want more action put back in this bit," and they were just like, "No, can you have more of Zora kind of talking to Henry or to Mahershala Ali's character?" And you're just like, "Oh, okay, something is, And that's my big issue with it is around that story stuff that you're talking about, Tom. Is the fact that, and I think you mentioned it when I asked for the note, from my last episode, Conor. Yeah. Like, where do we go from here? Like, why cut off that avenue for telling stories, even if that's not the one you want to tell now? Just, you didn't need to have them dying off for them to need to go to this island, because they could have needed these particular animals to take the DNA from, which could have been dropped in any sort of, an ADR line or whatever. But I didn't like the text. Apparently the text was the last thing that they added to the film at the front of the front of the film. So that was the last thing that was added. It wasn't there. And then they were required to have something, and David Koepp wrote that text and was just like, okay, if you need something, here it is, add it in. But it was never there to start with. It just started.
Such a shame, because that's such a... Like, the film starting off with that and the thing is, what we're talking about here, we're coming at it from super engaged fans. I know that.
Yes.
But most of what we're talking about here, the general audiences, they do not know and they do not care. And that's who they're playing to. No. But it really does affect every viewing of this film. It's starting off on such a clanger with that text.
Yeah, it does. It's awful. But even if people, like, it's had some really negative press alongside some quite good press. And... when I'm watching it, I'm just like, if you take those out, maybe you would have, maybe people might not understand why they don't like the film, or why they think certain things, don't feel right. And it's just like, well, get rid of that text. That's one thing that you can actually make it better with, because even for like people who are really engaged like us, like I was trying to do the maths when that came up, and I was like, I don't know why this is so this is I
so
don't believe
distracted
any of
in
this.
the cinema trying to
you don't have to do this. Like, if you want to start afresh, then do that and try and sever as many ties as you can. But it feels like that's what they were going to do, and to separate it as much as they could, and then they couldn't. They had to kind of add bits in, but the train was already running, and so certain things had already been locked, so you can't go and change other things. So
You make a really interesting point there, though, Roland, because there was a lot of talk online that apparently this was originally a reboot, and I don't know how much credibility there is to that, but it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of the clunkiness is because maybe initially they were going to be much more along the routes of a reboot, where even less would get explained. And then it wouldn't surprise me if studio execs saw online commentary and kind of got cold feet around that and thought, okay, we need to pull it back in a bit.
Yeah, I think he wanted to go back to, it's David Koepp. He wrote two of those films. I think he wanted to go, I'm going to go back to what I did in those two films. Yeah. And I'm going to, even though he's been involved in all of them in some capacity, he's looked at some of the scripts. I think he was just like, this is my story. If you ask me to write it, this is it. This is what I think should happen.
Yeah.
You can definitely feel
it's interesting.
Sorry, Tom. I was just going to say, you can definitely feel the confusion of them not fully understanding which era the facility is in multiple scenes. The dialogue seems to contradict each other. But like, just to quickly speak to what you said about David Kep coming back and wanting to go back to those films, one of the very big positives I felt of Rebirth was the amount of content it drew from the Lost World novel, in that this film almost feels like a more faithful adaptation of the Lost World novel than the Lost World film in some ways. And I did really enjoy that. But yeah, sorry, Tom.
Yeah, no, you're all good. I was just going to say, I think you actually hit the nail on the head earlier where you were talking about the superheroification of franchises, because I kind of feel like that's where Jurassic is on a it's basic. I would describe this franchise as on a tightrope right now, where I think you look at the Marvel franchise, you look at Star Wars as well, they kept doing that scale up, and then the bubble burst, and they're now having to try and pull the pieces back together. And I think if Universal don't work out a way to kind of smartly course correct, they've got the risk of getting to that exact same point where they get to the point where they can't meaningfully raise the stakes any further than they already have. Yeah. So then it kind of breaks the whole thing and the bubble bursts. And I think that's something I'm really concerned about, because I think too, something you said earlier as well, Roland, where you were talking about them cutting off an avenue that they could take the story in. The reason why those first 3 phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe work so well is because they never did that. So they always would like tell their story, but if other plot threads popped up during that, they would leave them, so they were always there, and then you'd often find that they'd come back to them in later films and tie it all together. And I think Universal seem to feel that with this franchise it has to be one linear story and there can't be anything that's kind of an outlier to that. But actually that is potentially gonna further push them into that corner in the future where they don't have any of those other strands that they can weave back in.
And they don't seem to plan. They don't want to put in the the actual resources to go, here's a Bible of Jurassic that you give to all new filmmakers coming onto the series. Let's keep this, as related to each other as we possibly can, and you can all have different flavors of this film, but kind of here's the A to B of what the story is and what it should feel like. Because they never plan past the first. So Rebirth is just Rebirth. There is no Rebirth 2. It will happen. But what that looks like, who knows? Because they never seem to want to hedge their bets and go, here's a 3-film deal in the terrifying nature that maybe the first one is terrible and we've already agreed to make 2 and 3. But in the end, if you'd actually taken that time to put everything together and go, here we go, just do it. This is how it's going to work. I think you would end up with better films.
It's a really interesting conundrum, isn't it? Because you saying that makes me immediately think of the 28 whatever franchise at this point, 28 years, 28 decades, whatever you want. But I think with that is quite interesting because they obviously have agreed to do 3 and they've said, well, we're definitely doing 2, and then depending on the reception, we'll get funding for the 3rd one. And I find that quite interesting because I don't think 28 years necessarily got a fully positive reaction, but I think because they know that they're hedging their bets, they kind of have now got the time to course correct that a little bit to try and get that 3rd film because they know that it's funding dependent. So that kind of it puts that good pressure on, I suppose, to kind of do a better film as a result of that. Whereas I guess if you're just doing 1 film at the time, you don't really care because your commitment is done. It doesn't matter either way.
And I think they wanted with Rebirth, I think even Rebirth, they were trying to make it lead into a sequel, but Gareth hasn't said it in so many words, but he cut that off. And I'm imagining because of the fact that he knew that there was nothing to go for, and then that will always set you up to, disappoint an audience by leaving something open-ended. He thought, well, at least let's try and just do 1 film that has a start, a middle, and an end, and and then whatever happens afterwards is a bonus. Okay, let's that's Jurassic World Rebirth fully put back in its box. That was a deep
dive,
Until next time. So Chaos Theory, it's finished. I finished it today on my lunch break just so I could. And my God, I was slightly worried that people were going to come in and like, I was, worried what I was doing, feeling quite emotional at the end of that. It was I watched the last 3 episodes back to back. And I was like, oh my word, this is is something
intense.
I could not believe it. But so anybody listening, we've all watched this. So we all talk about, what we think of the series. So if you haven't watched it, please go and watch it. Watch all of them, even if you don't think they're for you and you're a Jurassic fan, you're really missing out on some really great stories and characters. So Conor, what's your thoughts on kind of the thing as a whole? How long's it been going? 5 years worth of content? Feels much longer than 5 years.
Yeah, it's you know what? It's been incredible. It's actually crazy. Like I remember when it first got announced, because the DreamWorks Animation had done like a Fast and Furious thing, and from what I'd seen of that, I'm not a fan of that series, but it looked really like babified and stuff. And like series 1 of Camp Cretaceous was fantastic. I loved that. It brought us back to the original Jurassic worlds, and it really felt very grounded in that world from 2015. And then, but the main like success of the show has been the characters, and watching those characters grow from being children into adults, and all of the interrelationships, all of the drama, all of the kind of the breakups and the makeups. Like that's been a key thing that has kept this show, I think, in the forefront of like people's minds, is like really like huge investment in these characters, where some of them start out as kind of annoying stereotypes, and now I mean I care for every single one of these characters, and I'm sure we'll get into series 4 of Chaos Theory and where it's going with some of those characters and how we feel about them. But also in terms of like the atmosphere and the direction and the set pieces, it blew me. Chaos Theory blew me away in how much darker, how much more intense it was, and the way it used its dinosaurs in a much more mature way that really, really harkened back to the films. It's series 4, especially with the Dilophosaurs. Every scene they were in was really
just
intense,
astonishing,
especially in the tunnels.
Incredible. It made me think of when we talked about the Dilophosaurus on your episode, and about them being like the Gremlins. And like they are so much like that in that. And I was the bit where they look through the door and you can see them in the window, and I was just like, God, they're just like the Gremlins. And you're just like, oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So much fun. I think Chaos Theory especially has been absolutely incredible. Series 1 was such an amazing start with it was that mystery thriller, and when I loved that Brooklyn had seemingly died, and I still wish that maybe they had stuck with that decision. But I think where it did end up with the amount of drama that caused in the group, it was worth bringing her back in the end, and especially where we end up with Series 4. But yeah, I'd love to hear both of your takes on it as well. So maybe Tom, do you want to let us know?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like Chaos Theory, in my opinion, succeeds where the films perhaps haven't, because it's taken that concept of dinosaurs in our world and shown us so many different things. And it's also, I think the big thing for me with Chaos Theory is it's painted that bigger world. So yes, we see obviously a lot of stuff happening in America in places like Marshall Ridge, and what is kind of happening as those dinosaurs spread out from Lockwood Manor. But then I think going further afield with Dr. Sarr's facility in Senegal, and just showing us that actually this isn't something that is just happening in America or just happening on an island train. It has ramifications across the entire planet. It's really cool. It's sort of, I guess in that regard, it really realized something that I wanted since the viral marketing website, ironically enough. I just remember thinking about the Martel facility that Masrani Global had in Siberia, and how cool it would be to tell a story there. And I just think that both Camp Cretaceous and Chaos Theory kind of tap into that, where they're telling stories in different locations. You know, you even get the Arctic simulated locations on Manticore Island and all of that kind of stuff. And I just think it captures that bigger picture so nicely, and also gives us situations that I don't think we'd ever get in the films. Like, you know, the saber-toothed tiger, I don't think we'd ever see that in a Jurassic film. So it was a really nice way to, I guess, broaden the horizons of the whole franchise.
Yeah. It kind of didn't... I was thinking about it when I finished it, and, you know, I felt real emotion for, you know, when Ben... Just the shock of, you think Brooklyn's going to get killed, and then out of nowhere, he just gets smacked by the stegosaur. And I was like, oh my God, that's such a gut punch. And then when he essentially... and then essentially he dies at the end of the penultimate episode, and there's no music in the credits. Like, this program doesn't need to succeed in what it does. It doesn't need to be as good as it is. And yet it is. The amount of, you know, detail that goes into the script and the design and the thought and effort and energy that is just put into that show is phenomenal. And the reason why I felt the way I did when, you know, Ben's, you know, nearly dead is I really wish I'd had that for some of the characters through, and this Rebirth included, you know, the last 4 films, you know, I think probably Yudesky's death, you know, whereas it's not on the same level, but you were upset when he died. That's the sort of thing, you know, that's missing, is that we need, and I don't know how you do it in a 2-hour film, but lots of films do that.
It's something I remember thinking about this initially when we were getting Rebirth filming pictures. Is I remember there was, when the filming pictures were coming out, we basically knew that Loomis was going to have a fall, and I just remember thinking, how ballsy would it be if he has a fall and he just dies? Like, that would be something that we haven't seen. But I think it kind of gets back to what I suppose we were talking about when we were talking about Rebirth, which is sadly a big part of these wanting to be a tentpole franchise is having marketable characters and not getting rid of them. Like, I would say, look at Avengers Doomsday. Yeah, you look at Doomsday. We've got Robert Downey Jr. coming back. We've got Chris Evans coming back. It takes away any sense of consequence. And I think it's a real shame, because in a lot of ways it suffocates good storytelling in a way that a show like Chaos Theory doesn't get caught up in, because it could choose to kill its characters if it wanted to.
Yeah. It's incredible that they're able to do that within the realms of a kids animated show as well. Like, because you've, like, not only was that in Chaos Series 4, but there's been multiple points throughout the whole show, like even Series 1 with Ben falling from the train, of like putting these characters in real high stakes situations where you are actually thinking, are they actually going to die? Which is insane, given the trappings that it is a kids show on Netflix. Like, they are able to pull that off with such kind of gravitas.
And a runtime of 23 minutes.
Yeah.
And you need to have a start, a beginning, and an end. And and I was thinking at the end with Dominion, with the crossover of kind of them dragging Ben out and Ben being injured like the way he is, I'm just like, what if they'd done that to Grant or to Malcolm? Why didn't they think of doing that? Really put some... You don't have to kill him off, but imagine Grant being in that situation that Ben is in for the last moment, and he is the one that's thinking back. Yeah. And to him thinking... It's kind of... Wu ends up with like a broken arm. And you're like, there needed to be a hell of a lot more kind of stuff going on with the characters and what they did to them, I think.
Especially
just
with the cast
rough them up a bit.
The thing I always think of as well is like situations like it was really funny to me, because I don't know if you guys saw the Olympics marketing video that they did that crossed over with Rebirth, where it was like an Olympian talking about their real world injuries, and then Zora talking about her injuries. And I was just sat there thinking, yes, but the difference is that Olympian, you're seeing a clip of them getting heady lifted away because they're really injured, whereas Zora's going to take this life or death injury and then be back up, putting full weight on her legs in no time and just running away as if nothing happened.
Yeah. We need more. And we're not asking for people to die, because actually, when Ben, I don't feel like like at the end of that kind of being put through the mill with Ben, I was just like, when he did survive to the end, it made me grateful that actually they did go down that route, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's because you care about that person and you're happy that they're still alive by the end of it. I don't need and again, this comes back to before you joined us, Tom, we were having a little chat about Star Wars and stuff and The Last Jedi, and a conversation I had to somebody about The Last Jedi was around Leia and the fact that she had died when that film came out, Carrie Fisher, and she seemingly nearly dies in The Last Jedi and then comes back to life
right now.
Yeah. And that bit really works for me, because I know that real person is dead, and yet to have her be the most strongest person in that film and to not die by the end of it, you're just like, no, it's a much more fitting, tribute to that character and to her and her part in the films, because you let them live and you let them be really strong. And I thought, I'd love something like that to happen in a Jurassic, where you felt like a real power for them. But somebody who I talked to about that was just like, felt really cheated that they hadn't died and that was how she was going to die. And I'm like, would you really like Leia to like float around like an iceberg in space? Is that your lasting image of Princess Leia, dead like that? I'm not sure.
No, it's a valid point. I think what this show does as well is, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and you see Ben get out of the car, but then he is very much wheelchair bound for the rest of that last sequence.
Yeah,
so
again.
it's like the sense that there is a lasting consequence as well, and that actually that could be an injury that stays with him. It's just something that I think the television shows have achieved that the films haven't. Like, you look at the Jurassic World trilogy, the amount of stuff that Owen and Claire go through, and they're still fine in each of the films. It's all that stuff that pushes the boundaries of realism, I think, whereas this show does quite a good job of keeping it realistic for the most part. I will say I did laugh that we got another Dilophosaurus choke sequence, though. I literally wrote down, like, I made a note on my watch through that was just, Kenji got his Owen moment.
Yeah. And I love the way that the last series linked up with Dominion, and again made me like the bit where the helicopter's gone. And you're just like, that makes, and it now changes that ending of Dominion, because that's such a peaceful moment of them cramped in that tiny little helicopter, with the Jurassic music playing, and actually down below is somebody dying because you've taken that.
I think
was getting
genuinely
mad.
My show notes. My notes were literally like, oh my god, because of the main trio, Ben dies. What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
I was like, bold decision to have our movie cast kill off our animated cast, but here we go. It did a nice job also of kind of explaining parts of that ending that didn't quite make sense, where it showed all of the dinosaurs being herded into like a sub compartment of the main biosyn complex, because that was a big question. It's like, oh, all the dinosaurs are coming into the courtyard, and yet we only see a Dreadnoughtus, T-Rex, Therizinosaurus, and Giga. Where are like the other 100 dinosaurs? And this showed that they were going into that storage area, which also, Tom, I like that it didn't mess with Tales from a Jurassic World. That's still very much fits.
I did like that. I appreciated that it preserved.
I was very worried for you, Tom, when I sat down to.
I think there's been a couple of podcasts I've had a breakdown on where I've just been like, Scott, don't do this to me. As if I have any say or he's listening.
No, I loved everything that show's done, and I really hope that they can figure out something to do going forward with the link up with DreamWorks, and
I've
particularly
got my
that
pitch
team.
for you. Are you ready for the pitch,
yes,
Roland?
Please.
New group of characters, a group of brand new InGen scientific interns who are on Isle St. Hubert on the day that the D-Rex breaks out.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you've got that.
There you go.
Yeah, you've got that 17 years of stuff to play with.
Be interesting if a certain helicopter came to rescue them, wouldn't it?
I
So
want to know who's on that helicopter at the start.
2018, who knows?
Oh, who knows? Yeah, it could be 94 for what forever.
It's actually going to be set in 2029. Just don't ask how that works.
Yeah, some wormhole opened up on the island as well. Cool. Now, if we move on to Jurassic World Evolution, and you two got to go to the London kind of what was that, kind of fan event, was it?
Yeah. So it was they basically did a whole dinosaur integration network building that people could go to and interact with, and they invited a bunch of creators on the Friday before it all kicked off, I think, and then over the weekend it was public access, so you had to sign up quite far in advance and tickets were very limited, but anybody who got a ticket could go and experience this kind of immersive
and they were free, which was cool.
It was really cool. It basically had a bunch of the branding and everything for the Dinosaur Integration Network, but obviously the key part of that was getting hands-on with the game before it released as well.
Amazing. So to a complete newbie, what does this sort of bring? What does this mean for people playing the game?
Take it away, Conor Ontology.
So for this installment, I feel like we've basically got Jurassic World Evolution 2, but expanded. I feel like this is really the sequel that they should have done to Jurassic World Evolution 1. You've got pretty much everything carries over, but they've added so much more in-depth tools and an actual campaign as well, which is really, really fun with locations all around the world. So, I mean, the kind of key headlines are that there's breeding and juvenile dinosaurs now, that there are more attractions like the river raft, the Cretaceous cruise rather, and dinosaur petting zoo. You've got enhanced terrain tools, so you can actually create whole islands, mountains, gorges, rivers, waterfalls, and then you've got a modular building system, which essentially means that you can put down preset buildings like the Visitor Center, but then you can go in and change any aspect of any structure that you want from the ground up. You can create whole new buildings, you can modify existing ones, and you can share all of this stuff with the rest of the community. So it's an insanely big package this time around for the same price that the previous games were being sold at. So it's the kind of thing where it's it makes the other two obsolete in many ways, but equally, if you played the second one and you weren't so much a fan, this feels very much like you're playing the second one with a whole bunch of additional features. So I would say, if you weren't a massive fan of these kinds of games, this one is probably still not going to kind of be your cup of tea. But for fans of the simulation, genre, this is now, I'd say it now stands shoulder to shoulder with the other games that Frontier makes, like Planet Zoo and Planet Coaster. It now is at that level in which it is a serious contender for one of the best kind of sim games of this genre. But it is a massive package. As I said at the top of the show, I find it almost overwhelming, and I really have to divide my time up if I'm going to play this, because this is not a game that you can play casually for an hour or even two. This is a solid 3 to 6 hour session game.
Wow.
I have an important question, which is, you say it stands shoulder to shoulder with Frontier's other games. Does it stand shoulder to shoulder with Operation Genesis?
Yeah, that's what I'm really
You see, the thing is, there's something about that game that you just can't ever get. And I don't care how many details and features go into these games, nothing will ever beat the immaculate vibes of childhood nostalgia.
Yeah, I had to save that onto my, I think it was an Xbox One even that it was on. And to save it onto a memory disk every time you close the game. I just loved it. Yeah, I mean, because that was what you wanted to do. If there was going to be a Jurassic Park game, that's what I wanted it to be. Why couldn't you just make a Jurassic Park game? And they break out and you put them back in, or all the fun of Roller Coaster Tycoon and Theme Park Hospital, where you get you don't put in enough, I don't know, toilets, and you get everybody complaining, or you can just play real God. Which actually, strange tangent here, but that's sort of where AI comes from. I read a good book called Supremacy, and it goes into the details of sort of the people behind the ChatGPT and all of that. And they made those games. They made not theme park hospital, but equivalents of those. And it's almost that's kind of the genesis of AI, is the idea of wanting to create and have a computer create a world for you. And that's what they're all wanting to do. That's what we're chasing for.
We know what we need to say, which is they were so preoccupied with what they could that they didn't stop to think if they should.
They're all Hammond and Dodgson, and they're there now and they're tinkering.
I do think like the amount of creative depth that JWE3 has is insane. So I've done a few short form videos, and I took a break from making content on it to make content on Chaos Theory. But just like the big thing for me is the way they've made, I guess, visually impressive parks so much easier. So in the past, you would have to place like individual scenery items and things around your park to get it looking a certain way. But now there's a whole system in place with blueprints where you can basically get a collection of different scenery pieces that make a thing. So you could have like a piece of outdoor seating that's underneath a glass shelter that you can just place down and stuff like that. So from a purely aesthetic standpoint, it lets you get your parks looking the most beautiful they ever have.
Yeah.
And I think for me, as somebody who plays with the camera mode a lot, because I like to try and make cinematics with it, I think just the amount of potential there is for like interesting framing and interesting angles and different shots and things has increased massively twofold. So I think from the perspective of it being a sandbox game, it really is probably one of the best sandbox games that's out there at the moment in terms of just giving people a set of tools that they can use to make something.
Yeah, I think building on that is like I'm a massive fan of doing like recreations from the previous two games. I liked recreating pieces of like concept art and things from the novel and the films. And this game is insane. Like there are people that are currently working on like a one-to-one recreation of like the interior of the visitor center or the Lockwood Manor. And then there's even folks like, I wish I knew his name off the top of my head, but someone who's recreating this amazing piece of concept art. It might be by John Bell for the first film, in which there's this grand visitor center that's got a bridge spanning like this big canyon, and they are recreating that like piece by piece. Every detail is in there. It's incredible. Like now you can fully create whatever you want within the Jurassic universe, and that is insane. You're not constrained by hardly anything now. You can take any image or any piece of inspiration out and you can basically recreate it one-to-one on the building side of things. And then also with the new juvenile system and like the territory system, like you can create ecosystems for your dinosaurs. And then as Tom was saying, with like the camera modes, there's the first person camera, you can now create like a survival horror style building where you go first person through like a abandoned facility with blood on the floor and like raptors loose. Anything that you want to create, you can, and that is truly incredible. And as part of that, I really hope that this is now the last Evolution game, because like it really has all those features that fans have been asking for from all the previous games, and it's really this time. Where do you go? Like, just leave it at this one. This can have legs for decades because of the amount of creativity. They just need to keep updating it.
But Conor, Jurassic World Evolution 4 featuring Al St. Hubert and the Mutodon.
It's a really good point of like, this game is the first Evolution game to launch after the film that it's tied into and has zero reference, zero content from the film, because it was just so disconnected with the development process. And I imagine they're probably still working on the Rebirth content, seeing as we don't have an announcement and stuff. Like, it's I mean, at the time of recording, but I don't know how they're going to implement some of that Rebirth stuff as well. Like a Mutodon, like is that going in Avery or in a paddock because it can fly, but it's not a pterosaur. So Rebirth really threw a spanner in the works for this game. I think that they're figuring out.
It's almost like it did that across the board.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Hello, I've made a film, and they're just like, oh my god, like warning signs, just alarms go off in everybody holding a Jurassic franchise property. Yeah. He's done what?
Sorry, there's a 6-limbed T-Rex with a rancor face?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and you want me to have it done by Tuesday? Brilliant. Yeah, okay.
Nice. Yeah, easy. I mean, I do feel like we are living in an era, though, where Jurassic games have got the potential to go in a very good direction.
Yes. If we move on to what potentially might be coming next year. Now, this is something that might get me to, think about consoles and things like that, and that is Jurassic Park Survival. What do we know so far about this game?
Yeah, so it follows Dr. Maya Joshi, who is a scientist who was recruited specifically by Henry Wu to work on Isla Nublar. And Maya was left behind when the evacuation in Jurassic Park happened. So she is on her own on the island. However, there are going to be other characters that pop up throughout the story. So in the concept art, we see somebody who... shout out to the Jurassic Discord crew who will know who they are. People were pointing out that there's this character with a different name, but he looks strangely like Dodgson in a piece of concept art because he's got like a red shirt on and a straw hat. So there's that potential there. Also, she seems to potentially hear somebody over the radio in the initial reveal trailer, so there's definitely going to be other stuff that factors in there. But really, the game is still in alpha. It almost looks like, from everything we've seen, that they did the announcement trailer and then restarted production because everything we're seeing is very, very early. So it almost looks like they started from the ground up. There is a lot of conjecture in the fandom about the fact that it's not Jurassic Park dinosaur models, it's Jurassic World dinosaur models. I would make the argument to people, I think, to Universal, they are the same thing. They probably have the Jurassic World assets at a higher res, so they probably don't see the difference. But I think we're probably still quite a way away from it. So I genuinely would be shocked if we got it next year. I actually think we're probably more likely to see it in 2027, just because I think right now the stuff they're showing is pre-alpha, which says a lot about the kind of state it's in.
It feels like they wanted to get a trailer out in the JP30 anniversary year, but then they released all those pictures of them still writing the game and stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay, this is a classic thing in the video game industry where they show a pre-rendered cinematic as like a trailer, and then they actually start making the game, which is where I feel where we are with this. Yeah.
That's where we are currently, yeah. However, as a classic Jurassic fan, Roland, you'll be excited to know that what we will get in this game is it sounds very much like it's going to be open world. And we've seen concept art that shows the unfinished resort on Isla Nublar. So we're going to see areas of the park that we don't see in the original film. And we have also... We've seen the emergency bunker from Fallen Kingdom already as well, so we're going to find out what that was originally used for. So it looks like they're taking a lot of care to kind of craft a really immersive Isla Nublar map, which is exciting. The one thing I would say is graphically it doesn't look the best.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's very much. It looks like it's being made on the same engine that Saber's. What's the film?
Quiet Place.
Yes, there we go. It looks like it's being made on the same engine that the Quiet Place game was made on, and the graphics sort of look like an Xbox One era game.
Okay, I'll fit right in then.
That's, yeah, it might run on the Xbox One. Who knows?
I'll boot it up. It'll probably take me from now until when the game comes out. No, I love all the stuff. Reading the novels this year and kind of the stuff with the hotel where they stay in and the little TVs that they have in the room. That would just be so cool to go in and have a look. And, the bars on the windows and all that sort of stuff that's mentioned in the in the novel. I just think that is such a rich place to go into. Yeah, it's fab. It's such a shame that we can't go back to that moment before the dinosaurs get out, and have it as those bits. But in that era, that's what I want, like big box TVs and like clicky remotes.
You see, I feel like that would be the dream that we maybe could have got in like a 2010 era game, because right, get ready for the pitch here, guys, okay? And Saber, if you're listening, you might want to note this down. Think back to Modern Warfare 2. In Modern Warfare 2, at the end of the game, you can go into the museum and you can see like all of the enemy and friendly characters from the game and press a button and they attack you. What if when you finish the campaign for survival, you can then go back through the park as the like functional park and see all of the attractions, and if you want to press the metaphorical button, you can start the breakout of all of them.
That would be really cool. Yeah. I'd do that multiple times.
Saber, delay it to 2028.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for when that comes out. I don't think we'll probably get a new film, although who knows? Joe Johnston might suddenly spring out with his Jurassic 8. But we do have a dinosaur film that's coming out that is very shrouded in mystery, which is the Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor dinosaur movie, which is I brought it up, Flower Vale, Flower Vale Street, all 80s set sort of time travel film that looks bonkers, and Ewan McGregor keeps saying it has no dinosaurs in it, apart from everybody else saying it's got tons of dinosaurs in.
I'm all for more dinosaur franchises at this point.
Yeah, I think we might finally...
Absolutely.
Because we didn't really get anything like after the big Jurassic. We had loads of like really... There was like animated things, but there was never anything to really contend with a big blockbuster.
With this one as well, like I feel like it's a whole new angle. Like we've got Jurassic, which is like the blockbuster thing. Primitive War is like a war kind of thing, whereas this is like it I think it's directed by David Robert Mitchell, who did It Follows and Under the Silver Lake, who is a great director of these kind of like weird atmospheric movies. I love both of those movies. I don't know if he's done anything else, but so this is like bringing dinosaurs to a whole new kind of more indie A24 kind of crowd, which is, this is what we need. We need dinosaurs across all sorts of series, not just these big tentpole blockbusters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's something we talk about a lot, isn't it, Conor? It's like the idea of something like a Primeval reboot fitting in right about now with the kind of prevalence of dinosaurs.
Yep.
And I think equally, like, you see that from shows like Prehistoric Planet, where actually they're putting dinosaurs more and more on the small screen as well.
Yeah, I think, I saw, have either of you seen Primitive War?
I saw, so interestingly, I was gonna book the cinema screening of it that they're doing, but I think it was tonight, actually. Yeah. I think it was tonight. One evening. Showing. But I was quite surprised that, so I'm not far from Maidstone, so that's where I would have seen it. And I was like, I don't think there'll be many people like going to it. It was actually pretty booked out, to be fair to them. So
it's got amazing word of mouth. I actually got to see it. I got a screener sent to me. So I've watched it, and my review is on blueprintreview.com. I'll put a link below. I read the book this year as well.
Okay, cool.
It is very close to the book, so it follows the book.
Yeah.
In my mind, a bit too much. So it is. I found the book quite heavy going at times in terms of like character backstories and them thinking that is the reason why I'm reading this. And again, seeing the film, I'm like, I don't really care about you. I just want to see you get eaten, and I want to have dinosaurs, be vicious and all that kind of great, horrible stuff. The dinosaurs in it are great. The special effects are really good for the kind of cost of this film versus Jurassic. You're just like, this is really impressive that's kind of the level that we've got here.
The one thing I do want to put out there, I cannot unsee it being a Jurassic World Apatosaur. Like, it just looks like the Jurassic World Apatosaur. And
the T-Rex, the Rexes are, they're a bit beefier, but those heads are very much that. And the Quetzalcoatlus as well is very similar. Yes, somebody's, I don't know whether there must be an asset floating about somewhere that you can get hold of, and that's what they've got.
Yeah, slightly tweaked.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I think to the point on all of that, I think I'm in this headspace at the moment, and full disclosure, I have skin in the game because I'm writing a dinosaur book. But I just think that I really feel like there's a lot that Universal could have done with the Jurassic franchise that they haven't. And I'm sort of the mindset now of, I'm like, well, I kind of want somebody else to come along and do something else. Because I think it's kind of, if I was to use a gaming analogy, right, if you look at this year's two big releases, Battlefield 6 did way better than Black Ops 7. So Call of Duty has started to suddenly course correct and do a lot of things that their fans are asking for, and they're starting to listen to that a lot more. And I almost want to see that in the film franchises now, where I would love for somebody to come along, do a really good dinosaur film, and then kind of make Universal and the people heralding the Jurassic franchise sit up and go, okay, we need to actually do something else with this now.
Yeah. I think we're going to get Gareth back, I hope. For the next film, because I think he deserves to, just visually, I really like his style, and I think he can bring a lot. And I think just let him maybe, because to have something like the creator and that sort of, because I know the stories that he can come up with and put in that, that depth of, I don't know, just thought and philosophy as well. I think he brings to his films.
I would love to see him do something like Godzilla, but Jurassic. Like, can you imagine? So obviously in Godzilla, you follow the EOD soldier for a large chunk of it, and kind of his experience throughout that. And I just think like how interesting would it be if they went back in time and show us like the soldiers who were on that helicopter that's crashed on our Saint Hubert, and just give us like a really intimate story about those characters and how they got off of the island or something. I kind of feel like we're at the point where they need to break the linear storytelling and maybe do something else to make it feel a bit fresher, rather than going, here's another sequential sequel at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially where Rebirth leaves things off. It's like, well, they've got the DNA. They've left the island with baby Dolores, who'll die.
By the mosasaur.
It's a mosasaur in those waters. But yeah, there's so much about that island that would be cool to explore. But them just going back just feels really odd. Like going back again, it feels like, we need something like what you're saying with the soldiers. Maybe even it's a scientist from the lab escaping after the D-Rex, and then the soldiers come to the island. Like, there's a lot going on there that I think could be interesting if they wanted to make a direct Rebirth tie-in, which sounds like what they want to do. But equally, as you said earlier, bankable stars, they've now got Jonathan Bailey, who's massive, and Scarlett and Mahershala, and I'm sure they'll want to bring them all back. And that's the thing that I think that's going to stop that from happening. Sadly.
Yeah.
This is where the wormhole comes back into the conversation, though, because those three go through a wormhole and they end up on Isle Saint Hubert right as the breakout happens.
I wouldn't be surprised if Gareth has got something very weird that he would like to do with this franchise. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's,
I'm sure,
what he goes with. And I think Spielberg does quite enjoy weirdness, particularly with Jurassic. He's the one that always wanted the hybrids and the mutadons. He loves that. So I think if there's some dark weirdness in a Rebirth sequel, and if Gareth can pitch it to Spielberg, he's gonna go for it, I think. Because I think there was one bit in the commentary Gareth mentioned about talking about when the lights come on at the gas station just suddenly, and Gareth pitched that to Spielberg, and he said that as it comes up, there's like a song that plays that feels completely out of place from where they are. And he said he saw that Spielberg started to smile and like nod his head, and he was just like, okay, I think I've got him. I think I've pitched him what I would like to do with this film. So yeah, I think it's all to play for, and I think he's proved himself with, because as much as he could kind of add things, it wasn't really his film as such, to the point where he could come in and direct it, but be that person. I think they wanted somebody to come in and be really free. And I think he tried to do that as much as he could. And I hope he's given a lot more scope and say in the next one.
Just imagine what it would have been if the director of Fast and Furious had directed this, right?
I know. I'm glad I'm not in that wormhole.
David Leitch, yeah. Oh, yeah. Very, very good point. Great director for other types of films, but not Jurassic.
Yes. No, thank you. Yeah, so I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so great. And I've really enjoyed kind of the past 12 months and digging in and talking about this series and meeting people like yourselves. And I will be back next year to talk. I've got a series all about the timeline of dinosaurs in books. That's what my next series is going to be, is going back to the basics, talking
Very
about
exciting.
Jules Verne, Arthur Conan Doyle, and kind of getting to the point of where dinosaurs were the real animals and the kind of paleontology that was going on at that point to, Jurassic Park and what we have currently now in literature. But that's coming next
awesome.
year. I look forward to it.
I mean, congratulations, Roland, for the show as well. It's been so nice seeing Road to Rebirth grow and everything that you've done with the podcast. Now, I know initially it was kind of Road to Rebirth because it was up to the film and then what would happen next. So I think it's really exciting that you've kind of taken so much away from that you're now continuing and you're doing other stuff, because I think there's so much space for interesting content in the Jurassic community, and I think you're definitely delivering that. So I know I'm glad to hear you will be continuing.
Absolutely.
That's really kind. And I think, for what the thing is of you saying about other studios and other places kind of making sure that Universal up their game, or we want them to, I think, and I hope that we all support each other in everybody else's endeavors. So like Jurassic Park podcast, Stephen Ray Morris's See Jurassic Right, Stuck on Sauna, Outpost, it's a great community to be part of. And just, I love it when I open up my podcast app and see a new episode drop. Very, very excited to, continue being part of it for next year as well.
Absolutely. It's a great time for the community.
Yes, it is. So where can people find you online, if indeed you want them to?
Yeah. Go ahead, everyone. It's at Conor Ontology on Instagram and Blue Sky, and of course Dino DNA on the Jurassic Park podcast. And you might see some of both mine and Tom's stuff appear on the Frontier Workshop for Jurassic World Evolution 3 under our names as well.
I'm just going to say you'll see Conor's stuff. You won't see mine because my stuff is horrific in comparison to what Conor's been able to do so far. I think at one point I put a logo on a crate and I was like, yeah, that's good enough for the workshop. And then I saw the other stuff and was like, no, it's not. You can find me at Tom_Jurassic on Twitter and Instagram. Never going to call it X, it's always going to be Twitter. And you can also find me on TikTok, which I don't really mention, but I do have a TikTok page now. So yeah,
nice.
Down with the kids.
Huge thanks to Conor and Tom for joining me on my last episode of 2025. It's been a hugely enjoyable 2025 for me creating this podcast and getting to speak to so many people about the series I love. And it doesn't stop there. I have a brand new season coming in 2026. I'm going to share more details at the end of my next episode. That episode is a conversation with the wonderful Mark Newbold, who writes for ILM.com and hundreds of other places about Star Wars and so many other series. It's a really great chat. It was such a delight to talk to him about his thoughts on Jurassic and also that question about whether Jurassic would work on the smaller screen. I know it's sort of an eternal question for us fans. So join me next week for that episode. To follow the show and everything else, you can find me on Instagram at Jurassic Pirates Pod, brand new handle. And until next time, I'll just say thank you very, very much for listening. Have a wonderful new year, and goodbye.